episode of the Wheelerverse, where we talk to entrepreneurs and business owners about their road to success. Today, I have Brandon Castañeda with us here. How you doing? Castañeda. What's up, Brandon? How you doing, baby?
I'm feeling blessed.
Feeling blessed?
Blessed. Too
Awesome.
blessed to be stressed, you know?
Awesome. Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Constantly moving, man.
I try to constantly
moving.
move, you know? That's what it's all about. But, yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, I know some things being, you know, a partner and a friend, but I don't really know your whole story. So, like, you know, where did you kind of start in the workforce, and, like, what led you to wanting more for yourself?
Where did it all start?
Yeah, where did it all start, man?
Well, when I was 2... No, I'm just playing.
Same.
One, I would say, you know, my dad and my mom always instilled, like, very strong work ethic, you know, as far as, like, hustling, saving your money. My dad taught me that from a very young age. And then when I came out of school, I actually wanted to be a graphic designer for, I was going to work for Grace College.
No shit, okay.
I was going to work for Grace. So I was going through Indeed. I just had my daughter. She was about 6 months during COVID. And EDD checks stopped hitting.
Yeah.
The scammer days were over. So I was drying up a little bit. And I was just hitting all these jobs, like 200 a day on Indeed. I would just auto apply.
Damn, okay. I didn't know what that was. So because, you know, I'm constantly interviewing people. I believe in that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I just wondered how it was to be on that side, because when I started my businesses, it was pre-Indeed. So it's interesting to hear that you can just auto do that. But okay, continue.
Yeah, it's super clutch. It just uploads your thing, you answer 2 or 3 questions on your experience, and you're on to the next, right? So I'm going through like 200 a day. I'm getting hits, getting past the second interview and getting to the third, and then I'm getting like, sorry, we went with another option. And I was just like, drained, dude. I'm like, what the like,
yeah.
Am I not good enough? You know, that feeling kind of, you know, came across, and I was like, dude, I feel like I'm overqualified for this, but whatever. So came across a graphic designer job for Hype.
Yeah.
And
Shenzhen. Yeah.
Shout out to Shenzhen.
Yeah, hell
dude.
Yeah, brother.
And got through the first interview. I came in to the office in Baldwin Park at the time. It was probably like half of this room.
Damn.
And then the warehouse, bro, was probably like this size. So it was a super small warehouse. And Shiki and Colin were there. And then they were the ones that interviewed me, you know, and I'm showing them my portfolio, and because I just got out of a graphic design job with the boss before that. So I had a cool portfolio built around vape. And Colin's just sitting there the whole time. Wait,
so you had a vape portfolio already? You were already in the industry?
As a graphic designer.
You were? For what company?
Soren USA.
Okay, cool. I know. Dude, Soren, oh my God. So when we were first selling salts, I had the amazing idea to go to the distributors that were buying my salts and be like, hey, I'll buy Soren's back from you, so that I go to retailers and be like, hey, let me educate you on this. And I would use their pods. Great device. Okay, continue.
OG in the game, too.
Yeah, for sure.
My boss was a dickhead, though. And I didn't really want to be a graphic designer with that small of a team. And, Colin's just sitting there staring in my soul. All right, and Shiki's over here. You know how he is. Theatrical, and he's painting a picture, and this is what we got going on. And then at the end, they're like, yeah, so you didn't get the job. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, bro. What the I was just like, lay it out for me, bro. Like, where did I up? Like, oh, like, you got the job, but it's not this job. Like, you're not going to be doing graphic design. We're going to put you in sales, and you're going to make way more money. Like, dude, I'll sweep the floors for all I care. Just give me a job.
Yeah, for sure.
You know? And then that first week, Shiki was like, you got to have a call list of 300 people before you even hit the phones, so go figure that out. And then he sat me down and was like, what are you trying to make this year? And I was making decent money, like under the table and stuff, but I never really cracked like 100 grand, you know, maybe 80, maybe 75. And it's like 6 figures. He's like, bro, you can make 800 or 100,000. Like, what do you want to make? And I just threw out 100K, and we wrote on paper by the month and the day, and according to my commission rate, how many sales I would need to make, how many retail, how many distro. Just broke it all down into like a science, and then 6 months later, I cracked it, dude, and just never stopped from there.
Damn.
Yeah, it was pretty dope. Me, Carson, and Becca at a table about the size of this rug, just in a little office in Baldwin Park, just cranking away.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you started a business there.
Yeah. So fast forward to 2024, and me and obviously some of the people left and new guys came in. Me and Carson and Mikey were kind of running the day-to-day show, and it's kind of just on autopilot, and Carson and I have always wanted to start like a side business, Colin and Shicky always, what's the word? Like emphasize, like at some point you guys should have your own thing going on, we'd love to be a part of it. So we had this genius idea of what we thought was genius at the time. Let's start a credit card processing business because a lot of our customers are having issues getting shut down in their POS. So like we can kind of just merge the two worlds, right? And ideally we make Torch and their sub entities our first customers. Give us a little stain in the game, credibility, and then we'll take that out to our book of business. And long story short, that all just crumbled.
I think it's important. Why did it crumble, and what would you have done differently?
So little did I know, there's a couple things that like I wasn't thinking as a business guy, right? I was still thinking of it as an employee. Our third partner was Rogoff. He was the CFO. So he was showing us stuff that he shouldn't be showing an employee.
Yeah.
Right, like back end stuff with the numbers, not out of spite or bad intention, but just to say like, hey, this is where we're at.
In normal course of business, you approach a business and you'd ask for that information.
Correct. And we were just dumb. We didn't ask, right? So that was lesson number one. Lesson number two is politics, right? And as we're scouting different processors, word's getting back around to our processor that we're currently using. So now we're looked at as competition.
Yep.
And then he's like planting seeds like, hey, this isn't really good for your business, like Shicky and Colin, because they're going to stop selling your product, A. Two, you have no control, and like they're going to use office time for a side business, which like was never the point, but I can see how that all got misconstrued.
Do you think if you went to your bosses first and present the opportunity, it'd go differently?
So we did. We kind of broached it with Ryan Dole first, and we were like, "Hey, how would you feel about this?" And he's like, "Bro, if you can save me money, let's do it." And then we went to Colin. We're like, "Hey, this is what we got going on. Like, we want to sit down with all three of you guys at the table." The problem is none of them were ever in the office at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
Colin and Shicky were always in and out, in and out. Shicky was the last one to know, and he didn't find out directly through us. But we planned to tell him when we got back from Chicago Champs. And we're sitting, waiting for the plane. Just got done with the show, like literally 2 hours ago at the airport, sitting ready to come back. And Carson just starts getting logged out of chats. Boom, boom, boom.
No.
And he's like, bro, why the fuck is Shicky taking me out of all these chats? And I was like, he's probably just starting new chats, or like they're, those are old chats, bro. Like, stop tripping. At the time, I'm so naive that I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
No possible way they'll get rid of us. Like, we helped them build this empire.
Yeah.
And, I get on the plane, no worries. Fucking crash out. I'm knocked out, bro. And Carson's smart enough to, he's like, no, this doesn't seem, because I'm not getting logged out of the chat. So I'm like, I have nothing to worry about. And I wake up and I turn my phone off airplane mode, and it's just bing, 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 bing. Like 20 messages from Carson, like, dude, check your phone. They just logged me out of my email. They just logged me out the CRM. Colin just told me that we're all fired. Like, check all your So I'm like rubbing my eyes, looking at this, like, what the Just landed back from Cali from this trade show that we were just with them at, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the this makes no sense. And I go into my email and like, no access. Go into the sales chat, got kicked out. WhatsApp, CRM, everything. So I'm like, damn, they did us like that, And then I call Rogoff. I was like, hey, like 99.9% sure, but just double check. Pretty sure they just fired us all on the plane back. And then he checks, and he's an Indian dude. He's like, yo, bro. Bro, what happened, bro? I thought we were going to do something good for them, bro. And I was like, it's just the way that we communicated, right? We went around to them, or to Shicky, in my opinion, it looked like we were trying to be sneaky, or it looked like we were trying to do, which now looking back, like I completely get how that was viewed. But if we would have sat them all down or just threw them in a group text, say, hey, this is what we're doing. We need permission for this, and we're going to get you savings, and let's meet next week.
I'm the same way, bro. Like, if there's an opportunity to be had, I want to support my people. I would just want to know in the beginning. I want to be walked through, and I've had people give me one cheaters on, okay, what is it? What's the capital requirement? What industry? All that stuff, and so I can say yes or no. And even then, there could be a broader conversation of like, okay, well, what is your exit strategy? How long do I have you for?
Right.
You know,
right.
even if I'm not interested. So I think that's a good lesson for people, and I'm glad you delved into it because you know, a lot of people like when I started one of my first businesses, I was selling at the time, and I didn't do anything like that. But you know, I was doing it only on off time, weekends, and for me, I told him, I told my boss right away, and he kind of ridiculed me about it, and I was like, what the like. I'm like the number one, number two producer in this business. Like, why would I be ridiculed? And so, you know, it's the first time that I had taken a weekend off ever to go to a trade show. And we maxed out a merchant processor. We sold all of our product. This
What was
back
the
in like
business, if you don't
2014.
mind me
This is vape.
Oh, so
Back
this
in
is when you were
2014.
getting into
Yeah.
that whole
And
industry.
I felt so good. I was like, wow, we absolutely killed it. And so I get back. It's a Monday. And have you heard the story before? And so I had two bosses. I had a director of operations on the floor and I had my sales manager. My sales manager pulls me in front of HR and like two other like execs and just drills into me. Just, you weren't here. At that point, I felt like just a cash register to him. You know,
Right.
you weren't here. Like you're not taking this job. It was the first weekend I probably missed in a year and a half. And because I'd worked like 80 hours a week. And just, you think you're going to get rich by selling oil? Like that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. All this crazy shit. And I just looked at him and I looked at everybody in the room and I'm like, after all the blood, sweat, and tears that I had like done for this place and grown and like, you know, most people were closing 5 deals a month. I was closing 10 a week, you know, like
Right.
those were the
Cranking.
numbers. And so I just was like, hey man, I quit. And he made me more furious and laid in even more to me. And I was like, nah, dude, this. So that was one conversation. And then the next conversation is what I carry with me today, which is I walked into, her name was Brandy. Very intense lady, but also extremely business-minded and logical. So I sat down with her, and I've been preparing for this day. I didn't know when I was going to exit and go on my own, but like I made sure I managed my book of business correctly and that
Right.
it was dispersed out because there's multiple levels to the sales process of like deposit, seeing the property, signing contracts. There's like a few different hands involved in the
You're in
in
mortgages,
the pie.
right?
It was international real estate, so
Okay.
like it eventually came out as a scam years later after I left, and I had been down there. I had seen the property. I was 21, 22 at the time, so like
Right.
maybe naive, but like I had seen people like living there. I had seen like a country club being built. I had seen workers and staff. I had seen the resort in the community, but they did all their own financing. So we were the mortgage company and the real estate developer. So that's why there's multiple hands to the sales process. So I was really good at like making sure that I was handing them off in a timely fashion and getting them to people as I was closing, as opposed to you could hold on to them for like 30 days and take them through some more of the process. But I
Right,
knew this was
right.
coming. But anyway, so I sit down with her and I'm like, hey, you know, I just quit. His name was Jim. I just quit with Jim. Like I have no hard feelings. Like I really feel that, you know, I want to go try to do something on my own. And I believe this is like the next step for me. And she's like, do you really believe this is the next step in your journey? And I said, I do 100%. And she's like, how's your book of business? And I said, look, what I just described. I'm like, you know, I have this person and this person, the other two down the line already aware. I've made sure that every person that I've booked is in proper hands. I don't really have outside of like appointment set that I can hand off. I don't really have anything in the works that I need to worry about. I've been pretty proactive. And she said, okay. She said, well, you know what? You've done a big service to this business and we value everything you've done. So I'm not going to stop you from going getting your own. You should do that. Everybody should do that. And I want you to know you always have a seat here if it doesn't work out. And
Sounds kind of
I
familiar.
was like, yeah. I was like, holy. And so, you know, I take that with me today, like the last 12 or 13 years, and that's how I try to approach situations. And I just have to have the understanding of like what I was able to go grab and take the next step. And so the only time I'll really intervene when someone quits or there's an issue they want to go start something is when I believe for that person it's not the right step. Meaning, you know, and it can be anything from, hey, I have a spiritual journey I need to do. I want to start my own business. I really want it to be, you know, an athletic coach, whatever, like these things that like I can see as a huge moral swing for them. I can't really get in the way of that. But when someone's like, yeah, like I'm just kind of giving up and I'm going to go backwards, I'll intervene and be like, hey, like what do we got to do? Because I see something in you, you know? So I won't but outside of that, most of the time it's, I support you on your journey. Like, you have a seat here. What can I do to help? So you went through that stuff. Eventually you came and found me. We did some work together and, walk me through, I think it's really important to talk about because, you walked away from seven figures plus, to go do your own thing, which is huge. And I'm honored that we got to do your own thing together. But I think this is important because a lot of people, they have, like the gentleman in here before you, he had a day job and he created a side hustle and now it's a flourishing business for him. But I think a lot of people, myself included, if my boss hadn't screamed at me that day, I don't know if I would have left at that time. So I think people get nervous about making the leap and doing their own thing. And I think part of it too is having a nest egg. Like, you can't just have $0 and just be like, 100%. Okay, I'm going to go start my own thing now.
You can't jump in the water with no life vest.
Exactly. So walk us through like that train of thought and how you arrived where you're at, all of it for these people that are thinking about doing their own thing.
Right. So one, I was nervous as to tell you and Jacob because I didn't know how that conversation was going to go. So I want to say I appreciate, just like Brandy, encouraged you. It was almost a imitated same scenario when I talked to you, but I didn't know what I was gonna do at the time. I knew that I needed some time to kind of step back. Hadn't taken any vacations. Hadn't really spent time with my family. We were traveling so much and going to champs and long hours. Like the hours that I had to put in when I first started. Even though I had a book of business, it was a new company, so a lot of my book didn't come over with me from Torch. So for me, it was more so just a moral dilemma because for personal reasons, and family-based reasons, spiritual reasons, when I first got in the industry, I used all these products. I was a connoisseur. I can explain it and break it down. And over time, certain events happened in my life where one by one, I started cutting them out.
Yep.
So I kind of got to the point where I was like, hey, if I don't use them, if I don't support them, if I don't want my daughter using them, why the f am I selling it? And it was really just that simple for me. So, I went back and forth probably for like 6 months on like, should I just finish the year out? Should I give it another year? Should I give it another 3 months? And I don't know what it was, bro. I call it God, but there was this voice that got louder and louder, and then I would talk with my close friends and my brothers, and these conversations would just resonate, and they didn't really know what I was going through.
Yeah.
At the time, they had some idea, but it all came down to, hey, bro, whatever your next step is, you're gonna figure that out. You're a smart guy, but the longer that you prolong it, the longer you're gonna prolong the next destination. The next stop you're going to. So, for me, the plan was to quit, take some money, some time for 3 months, go spend it with my family, and figure it the f out. And what was kind of weird or like very, very convenient was that the opportunity that we have now almost came across immediately as a position with, a partnership with Premium, and that was like always like the light bulb kind of went off when that was thrown across my desk. I talked it over with my wife and I was like, just take some time. We're going to go to Hawaii. We're going to go to New York. Just think about it, and, kind of detach a little bit. And I did, and that was always at the top. There was never another opportunity that came across or that I researched that was like, oh, that's the one. Like, as soon as you and Jacob mentioned that, like, I kind of knew. Same thing when I interviewed for Exodus. Like, I had 4 more interviews after that.
Yeah.
But I remember walking out the building and looking at Carson in the parking lot. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go to these other interviews, but I'm just telling you now, like, I feel good about that one. That's my choice right now.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, same. So sometimes you just get this feeling of like, yeah, that's where I want to be. And the main thing was I wanted to be in the same circle, because I love working with you guys. It's hard to find people that are on the same journey, and have the same moral values and operate the same way, especially when, you're making a load of money. A lot of people's morals get compromised when it comes to money, and it's just as simple as that. So not only that, but like the tension of friendships, I feel like blows up a lot of times. It's a bunch of
Yeah, I would say, at my height, my moral compass never got with, I just wouldn't, I can't, it's not in me to like hurt somebody monetarily.
Right.
within reason, of course. Like if someone wants to come at my family or hurt my business, like there will be retaliation for that. But to like over a partner or a friend, like it just never really computed in my brain. However, when you start making a lot of money, it like really enhances your personality. And so at the top, like I developed when I started my business first, I had a huge ego, which made no sense because I took a huge pay cut to go start it.
Right.
So it's like, it was my way or the highway, which made no sense. It did me no favors. And so I had to learn to be teachable and to empower others. And then at my height, the ego kind of crept back in where it was my way or the highway. I know best. Look at what I did. And I had to get humbled and realize that, it takes a village and it takes a team and it takes partners. And, getting ejected from a business that I was in and kind of watching the money with everybody's head and kind of start stabbing each other in the back, like it was a godsend for sure, for me to learn some valuable lessons that I don't think that any of them have even been even come close to learn.
Were you like, me personally, I would have been spiraling. Like how was that?
Yeah, well, I deleted a lot of my Instagram after I got robbed because I just was so paranoid. I wish I kept it up, but some stuff is still up. But if you went back, like there was like it wasn't so much for me. It was never really truly. I know whatever I go do, I'm going to make money. Mm-hmm. I'm not too worried about the byproduct of my work anymore. I'm more worried. I was more worried of like I was demonized, and I thought a lot of people were my friends and family, and so like that part sucked the most. Was like money got so entrenched in relationships that like they were willing to like basically from one day to the next cut someone out of their life and never talk to them again. And it was wild to me because I just don't operate that way. And like I never want to have to be in that situation again if I can help it. And so that's why I'm really particular with who I do business with,
Right.
like, and how agreements are written and who we bring into the circle. And you can ask our mutual partner about situations that have arose in the auto industry where people have wanted to partner, and some of them are good people. But nowadays, instead of like jumping into something because I know it'll be successful, I've delayed decisions because I'm like, hey, this is an outside person. We don't know them that well. But we need to have protection set up. We need to have multiple conversations because, like, I'm all for like a partnership that makes sense and to like grow the business. But I've seen crazy go down and friendships that were over 10 years just dismantled in a day. And like, I don't want to put what we're doing at risk. Like,
Right.
I don't want to put that ever at risk. And so that's basically a lesson that I learned, is our time is valuable. We have an awesome skill set and we will make money. So what does that mean? Well, I'm not going to go to the bar tonight and hang out with all those guys, like down at the dive bar. They ain't got nothing going on, So why would I invite a random into my circle? Like like you just said, I want them to be on the same journey, the same moral compass, be about what I'm about. And basically, like, the simplest way to answer that question is, are you willing to do whatever it takes for your business? And a lot of people can't answer that.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah. And you even joined us in like, I still consider EXO a startup. We're a little over 2 years in, and like, bro, you were there, you made good money, but like, I think you and Carson and everybody there at that time, and some people have mixed feelings about leaving the business or what have you. I'm sure people have mixed feelings even being there, but like a startup is not fun. At least for me. It might be for you guys, but it is not fun.
Well, I feel like we came in like kind of at the end of the show. Like we
And then
still had
the show
a
began,
couple
though.
we still had a couple mini episodes, but at least we had sellable product, right? The marketing was on point.
Sure.
As we seen at the last trade show, everyone knew about it. You remember when it was just like 50 people at the booth?
Yep.
We're like, dude, we don't have enough people to entertain everyone. You know,
Yep.
people are walking away because everyone's busy right now. That was like when I was like, oh, this is dope.
It's dope. It's
is
just,
dope.
building something the correct way takes a lot of time, money, effort. It takes stress. It takes a lot. And I guess my point that I was trying to make is like, and hopefully others watch this as well, but you get to see a true character of somebody when they're under immense stress, which I am and was, because it's, essentially I have like 4 or 5 startups going. Every business since 2 years ago when I got ejected is all in that 2-year frame, and they're all, I would consider startups. They're only 24-ish months old.
Yeah.
So like, you got to see my back up against and see me operate, and not once did I lie, go against my words, play games. Like even the month you left, like I had to lower commissions, which I said in that meeting, hey, this is temporary.
And go back
I'm
up.
going to create a way for you to make more money because I don't believe in lowering commissions. And
Right.
that had some fallout. And it's funny because a week later, everything I promised, I,
Right
I, I
back up.
returned. Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, I think
I
like you
like
said
that.
earlier, not to cut you off, but while you were on that point, you just mentioned people you're going to see their true, personality at their low and then also at their highest.
Correct.
It's one of two, and a lot of times it's the same characteristics regardless. If you're slimy, you're going to be real slimy when you're suffering, and also real slimy when you have money and power,
Exactly. And lessons I've learned is, I don't, I want to pack more positivity and like help others grow because now my network of like entrepreneurs and business partners and friends all of the same mindset. And like, it's not, I don't have to, they say it's lonely at the top, but in the beginning, the first like probably 6, 7, 8 years it was until
Right.
I started really building these relationships and guys that were just starting out around the same amount of time I was, or a couple years later, like we've been able to like build a relationship, and it's cool to have a couple people in your corner. But to take this to an end, the question I like to ask people is, if there's somebody watching this video that just heard a good portion of your story and they're thinking about starting their own business or struggling a little bit, what piece of advice would you give? What suggestion would you give them?
That's a great question. I think a lot of people just jump to it, right? They see a good idea and they're like, "Oh, this is what I'm about to do. This is my calling." One, you gotta, like you said, have some money in the bank for a rainy day, because is gonna happen that you're never gonna expect, right? And you never want to put yourself in a position where you're desperate and trying to run a business, startup at that, especially when you're feeding other people's families. Two, so be prepared to, personally, I think you need to detach a little bit from reality, whether that be just a weekend where you're at your house and turning your phone off, not talking to anybody, whether that's a vacation, spending time with your wife. Get yourself in the headspace where you're just looking at everything from an outside view, looking in, and not a personal me view, and see if it makes sense. And then three, I think the biggest thing is you're gonna at some point have to delegate if you want to scale, right? So having the correct people when it comes to their morals and their vision, like we talked about, but also their skills and their work ethic is essential, because a problem I see within not this industry, but all industries, is you get to a point where it's ready to blow, and it's usually one guy at the top that's running around scrambling, trying to handle everything, And one thing I learned from you is when you delegate people in the right positions, it's much easier to scale exponentially, and that's when you really start to cook with gas. And now everyone's eating, all this work that we put in for the 2-3 years is almost happening, not overnight, but in a much shorter span, 3 or 6 months, you can see the actual success, the fruits of your labor. So, have some money in the bank. If you got to be at a 9 to 5 grinding to do what your passion is, go work overtime, go drive Uber, do whatever you have to do to have a nice little nest egg, detach and really think about it and research what your next move is going to be, and then start building relationships with people so that when the time comes, you can delegate work and scale and have trustworthy people on your side that, those bad personality traits won't come out when you guys are all winning, and everyone
Yeah.
can eat together. And that's very rare to find a team like that.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon.
Appreciate you.
Cool.